No article.
Can you people still see, other people, can you still see my screen?
Yes, yes. I can see it. Oh,
I
it
can just stop.
has gone. No.
Yeah, I just stopped sharing, so I'm going to share it again so that you can see the screen. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
I can.
Introduction to digital impression taking.
Yeah, so I wanted to go on full screen before, but when I go on full screen, it covers the teams, so I'm not able to look at you as well as the lever. So I'm going to have to leave it here, so you will just be seeing those things on the side. If you just ignore these bits here, I'll just make it as small as possible. Okay, and just focus your attention on what's on the screen. Um, so when we talk
Hello,
about the,
doctor. I'm not
yes,
seeing
please.
anything. I don't know whether it's supposed to
Are
do.
you on the phone?
Yeah, I'm in phone. Yes.
Yeah, so your phone might have more than one screen. Okay, it might have more than one interface. So you need to move around, check to see if you have more than one screen. So the presentation may be on the other screen of your phone. Did that work?
No, I'm not seeing any screen.
Okay. Do you mind maybe if you want to go off the call and come back in? As long as others are seeing the screen that I'm sharing, then you're supposed to be able to see it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
maybe if you log off and log back on, it might just fix the problem.
Okay. Let me do that. Thank you.
Be fast about it because we have already started. Okay, so this is introduction to digital impression taking, and in other words, intraoral scanning. Okay, so we will be using interchangeably digital impression taking or intraoral scanning, or just abbreviated IOS, which stands for intraoral scanning. And this is one of the assessments that I have to do for my PGCERT in dental education at the University of Cambridge. Okay, so I've designed this session to last approximately 90 minutes, but that will completely depend on how engaging we are today, but hopefully we can be able to finish within that allocated time frame. So the aim of this session today is to introduce you who are dental professionals. I have generally designed this for dental professionals in low resource settings. So you're not in high income country. I know that predominantly you guys are in Nigeria. I don't know if our colleagues have joined us from other parts of the world, um, but this is mainly designed for people who are currently working in settings where resources are limited and uh, and in countries where money is not always available for things that they are needed for. Okay, so the session is designed using a model that we call the George and Doto 5-step model of teaching. I'll take you through what we will be covering today. So the sessions that we're going to do today have been split into 5 different sessions. Now these are 5 short sessions. It's not like sessions that are going to be very, very long. So we first of all have an introduction into the digital impression taking, and we will do some kind of demonstration. So we're going to watch a few recorded videos. So I've sourced out very useful videos on YouTube to demonstrate for you the process of intraoral scanning, and this will replace me physically having you all in a clinical setting and displaying for you how you do intraoral scanning. Okay, so originally we designed this session to be a face-to-face hands-on session, but due to logistical issues and resource limitation, we decided to run the first session online to give that introduction into it and then see what happens next. So the third step that we're going to do today will be where you will be watching a video that are recorded, but we will be giving some explanations through the video, and then we'll observe a 10-minute break. We'll come back to a session. So please, if you pay attention through the process, the fourth session will be in a breakout rooms where you will be narrating the process of doing intraoral scanning. So it's going to be like a kind of conversation, and then we will have a session where we will do some kind of cognitive rehearsal where you will try to identify errors with intraoral scanning, and before I conclude this session in the end. So why are we doing this online? Like I said, this was originally designed to be face-to-face, but because of limitations with resources and logistical issues, we've decided to, do the first session online and then see what we can do moving forward. So there is problems with limited access to scanners and equipment. So in an ideal situation will require all of you, the participants, to have your own scanners and equipment and screen monitors and all of that for us to be able to practice this thing. But we will look at how we can do that in the future. So there is need for flexibility and accessibility of this training, and we are going to use this training now to build foundational understanding of intraoral scanning or digital impression taking. We will also use it to reduce some kind of anxiety around digital technologies. So some of you may not be very familiar with digital technologies, and the anxiety of incorporating it or switching over to digital impression and digital technologies in your clinic you might be a bit unsure. So we'll use this to damp it down a little bit and see how we can go from there. So we'll prepare you for future hands-on, and also because of travel distance that I've said initially. So these are the rationales for this online session that we are having today. Mary, sorry, I've had to put you on mute just to minimize interference. So there are intended learning outcomes that we've designed for this session. So these are the things that I expect that at the end of this session, you should be able to take out of it, okay? So, and this is how we are going to assess your learnings from today's session. So I want you to be able to explain what intraoral scanning is and when it may be clinically useful in your setting, and also identify key components of an intraoral scanner and their basic functions. And at the end, I also wanted to be able to describe the basic sequence involved in a full arch digital scan, and recognize common scanner errors using video. So we will show you some videos to see that if you can be able to recognize some common scanner errors that you will observe there. And finally, you should be able to justify when digital scanning or intraoral scanning is useful and when it is not useful, or appropriate and when it is not appropriate in your own setting, okay? So it's not that we are teaching you something that you will just switch over to it and do digital impression taking in all of your clinical consultations. So you need to be able to make that clinical judgment as to when it is appropriate and when it is inappropriate in your own individual settings. So what we are going to do now is to give you an opportunity to think about what you do currently and tell us, how do you currently take impressions? So there is a hand raising function here. You could raise your hand, and or you could just unmute yourself and tell us, how do you currently take impressions? Are you very involved in taking impressions? Yes, John, please.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, John, please go on.
Okay, so currently I take impression manually using impression tray and Alginate to take impression. Thereafter, then I use the dentals to cast to get the positive impact of the impression. So that was how I take impressions.
Anthony, you wanted to say something before?
Yes, like you have explained, we still use Alginate to take impression, then pour stone or POP to get the cast of the impression out. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So is there any person here that have seen or used an intraoral scanner before?
Yes, I attended the class. I attended the class in Chuboras Dental Material Supply. There was a training, and they brought an intraoral scanner that goes with a screen. So I saw it there.
Okay. And with what you are doing currently, is there any challenges with, your current practice, the manual impression taking? Is there anything that you're not very comfortable with?
The material for impression taking first, some could not be stored properly, so they'll have defects.
Yeah.
Then there's also change in temperature or bubbles inside the Alginate that can cause distortion in the impression taking.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so what we are looking at today is, trying to understand what you all are doing currently. And I want to believe that any other person here, if you're not using digital scanners already, that you might be doing manual. Yes, Gospel, please.
Okay, talking about the challenges with the manual impression taking. I think the major would be the fact that sometimes we waste material because you may take impression and then the impression does not really give you that it sets faster before you could impress it in patient's mouth. So there is always this tendency of material waste from time to time. And at most times it is not so detailed like it should be when compared to the scanner. So I think these are the limitations that I think.
Thank you so much for sharing those. So, wastage of resources is very important. Again, when you're dealing with an environment where you don't have sufficient resources for every single thing. So instead of wasting things, you would invest in other things, you waste it. And also eco-friendliness. So when we produce those manual impressions and all of that, they are not very eco-friendly. They mess up the environment, the smells and all of that. So we'll look at how we can move forward from that. So what we are going to do, and it's important for me to emphasize that this introduction to digital impression taking is not taking away your current practice. Okay, what you're doing is right. This is what everybody was doing before the invention of digital impression taking and intraoral scanners. So intraoral scanners are not here to replace your manual ways of doing impression. They are here to augment what you are doing. And in fact, someone had said that dental practitioners should never be able to move straight into digital dentistry without knowing the traditional way of doing things. So no one is going to jump from, not knowing the traditional way of doing things into practicing digital impression taking. If not, you will not really understand what it is you are doing. Things might change perhaps in so many years to come. But for now, this is to add to what you are doing to make things a bit easier for you in your own practice. Gospel, you still have your hand up. Do you want to say something else, or you forgot your hand? Okay, thank you.
No, really. I didn't pay attention to that. Sorry.
It's okay, no problem. So let's look at a little bit of an overview around digital technologies that we use now in dentistry. So intraoral scanning or intraoral scanners, they are part of the core technologies that we use today in dentistry. And if you look around, you will see that digital dentistry is thriving on a powerful ecosystem of interconnected technologies. So we're talking about intraoral scanner, but the intraoral scanner doesn't function on its own. So it's connected, like Anthony said. He said there was a monitor that is attached to that. There are softwares that the application run on to make it work. And even after you've done that, there is still the CAD/CAM system, that is the computer-aided design and the computer-aided manufacturing system that the digital impression that you've taken would be sent to for it to be used to design the whatever prosthetic appliance that you want, and then it will be printed either using 3D printers or by milling in the laboratory and all of that. So there is quite a connection of an interconnection of technologies that digital dentistry rely on currently, of which intraoral scanner is just one bit out of it. So there are a series of sessions that I've done in the past about the full introduction to digital dentistry, but today we're looking at specifically intraoral scanners. So dental tools are transforming how dental professionals diagnose, treat, and communicate with dental patients. And this transformation is very useful in giving you precision, some high-level precision in patient management, and also patient satisfaction is improved significantly when you start incorporating these technologies into your practice. So traditionally, what we have is that in a workflow, in a dental workflow, for you to be able to get something done, you have traditionally, you do the manual impression taking, which you have all described how it is done, and then you do the model. Yeah. After the modeling, you go to the lab where you do the casting and all of that, the stone casting and all of that, before the technicians or the technologists can now produce whatever restoration that is required. So that process, which in impression taking, happens to be the start point of that traditional workflow. What you see now is that technology have replaced, not replaced, but there are technologies to support each of these stages of each of these stages in the dental workflow, which scanning is now being used in many places, either in place or alongside the digital, the manual impression taking. So in the digital workflow, what you now get is the scan. So the scan is exported to the system where you can now use it to design whatever it is you're doing, whether you are doing digital smile design or you are working on, full denture, partial denture, crown, orthodontic appliances, even an implant. Okay, so you do the design there, and then you send it to the mill for printing or milling. That's where the lab people will, put it through their 3D printer, and it just prints that appliance with high level of precision as against what would have been done in the laboratory. Okay, so in the digital workflow, you have scanning, design, printing or milling, and now you have a restoration that has been produced. So out of these move from traditional to digital, which of these steps do you think would save more time? So incorporating digital dentistry or digital practice into your practice, which of these stages do you think would save the most time for you? Think about the time it takes to take impression and do the casting, sending to the lab. Think about the time the lab takes to do the manual waxing up and production of the appliance, maybe the denture or whatever it is you want them to do for you. And now think about maybe switching over to, intraoral scanning or computer-aided designing or milling or 3D printing. Which of these stages do you think will save the most time?
The digital workflow, though I have not witnessed from the starting to the finish, that in one hospital, they took the card design, but I didn't wait for the work to come out. But in any way, you can't compare digital to traditional or manual. Only to take impression, like somebody said, you can take impression and you find out that what you're looking for is not in the cast. You have to destroy it and go back, call the patient back to come and take impression. That means you don't want to even wait the patient time to repeat immediately. You think you can do it, you have to call the patient back to take the impression again. So the digital workflow is better, sir.
Yeah, so but which stage of the digital workflow will save most time? Is it the scanning bit or the design bit or the printing, the mailing bit? Just even if you don't know, because you've not observed all of them, but which stage do you think roughly would take less time? Will save you more time?
The restoration, sir.
Okay, so you mean the in-office milling? Yeah, gospel.
The card design,
I think the card design will save more time because, sorry, somebody is speaking.
Yeah, go on. He's saying the same thing,
so
actually.
I think the card design will save more time because after impression, you still have to wait for the cast to set, and the design, that certain time will completely be taken out of the equation when it comes to using the digital. Can somebody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You are loud.
No.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So I feel like that wait time for setting would have been ruled out in the equation by the time you're doing for the card design. Like it can be done immediately. You scan, the design goes on, and then the milling takes place. So I feel that where the time is saved more is on the card design and then the in-office milling. But the card design, I think, saves more time. That's what I feel.
Yeah, you're all right. So the card design, replaces the manual waxing up and all of those rigorous process that you observe in the dental laboratory. The in-office milling, again, saves time and is faster compared to lab production and lab milling. But also the intraoral scanning also saves time when you compare it with the traditional impression taking. But it's not only time that it saves you, it also gives you a high level of precision and accuracy when you want to do that. So intraoral scanning can be defined as a digital method of capturing the shape of the teeth and oral tissues using a handheld camera to create a 3D model. Okay, so you use the handheld camera to create a 3D model, and that is what the intraoral scanning is. That's why I'm trying to lower your hands just so we don't get confused when you want to actually say something. Thank you. So intraoral scanners replace the traditional use of impression trays and alginate and materials. How many of you have been a patient where your impression was actually taken, perhaps in dental school when your friends were practicing on you? So you feel that the level of discomfort that it gives you when that impression is being taken, it feels like someone is trying to harm you or choke you when you are doing that impression. And your mouth also is a personal space, and that level of vulnerability, even though with digital impression scanning you still have to open your mouth, but there's a level of vulnerability you feel when someone is trying to take your impression and all of that. So all of that will be replaced by intraoral scanning, and these handheld devices, they can scan oral cavity to produce high resolution three-dimensional images of the teeth, soft tissues, and occlusion. That is the bite area. So what you find is that once you do the scan, if you look at the picture that you see there on the screen, it gives you a high level resolution that you can actually study, and this is very helpful with patient education and all of that. We'll look at some of those very shortly with the uses of that. So when do you actually use intraoral scanners? There are so many indications for use of intraoral scanners, but some of them include when you are designing dental restorations. Okay, so those of you that work in a clinic, either that you work solo in your own clinic or you work in a team where things are done collaboratively, you might come across cases where a patient will need a crown or a bridge, some bridges. You might need veneers. You might need denture, whether partial or full denture, and you might need other simple restorations. Okay. Also, if you work in an orthodontic clinic, that is another important place where intraoral scanning becomes very, very important. So you have to plan orthodontic treatment. Maybe you want to do some braces, or you want to do some clear aligners, which is like the end thing now, where people are needing clear aligners, or you are doing dental implantology. That is also very useful and handy when you're doing dental implant. But also, those of you that are in oral health side of things, if you're not too involved with those restorative things that we do in a dental clinic, say you're a therapist and you have limited access to restorations and you are more linked to patients in terms of monitoring their oral health and all of that, when you want to keep precise record of a patient's oral health, and you can use that to track improvement in the oral health of that patient, maybe post pre and post treatment, and even into the future. Intraoral scanners can also be used in that instance. Now, this is generally, but again, when do you use intraoral scanners in a low resource setting? Okay, in a setting where money is limited, patients are not always very wealthy enough to pay some large amount of money and all of that. Again, the indications are similar to what you would do generally, even if you were in a more resourced setting. So generally, intraoral scanners in low resource settings are essential to enhance the efficiency and accuracy of dental practices. Okay, so when you are more interested in the efficiency of the work that you are doing and the accuracy, someone did mention, I can't remember who said that if you do your impression taking, the manual impression taking, and you do the casting, and you realize that it doesn't give you the information you are looking for, you have to destroy that and do it again. And again, you might keep doing it and doing it until you get the finest details that you are looking for. And that is not an efficient way of doing things. Someone also did mention that you waste a lot of materials when you're trying to do manual impression taking. Again, that is not resourceful when you waste the material. So when you want to eliminate all of those things, and again, there are times where, okay, that person that you have to throw away an impression that you already taken. The patient may have gone home and you have to contact the patient, give that patient appointment to come back again. Maybe they even struggled to get there in the first instance, and now you have to bring them back into the clinic to repeat the same procedure. That is a waste of resources. So in a low resource setting, it is very important that if you can afford to have digital scanners like this, you do it once, both yourself and the patient will see the results. Everybody is happy. The patient leaves. You don't need to call the patient back because you've seen firsthand in real time what you have done. But there are some key specific indicators for this when you want to reduce patient discomfort. Okay, when you want to reduce patient discomfort, like I said, if you're taking the impression of someone, or someone is taking your impression, is quite uncomfortable, and a lot of patients cannot actually tolerate that. I mean, I know that if I ask you now, you may have come across patients that can't tolerate you taking their impression because it's very uncomfortable. So when you want to increase patients' comfort and also streamline your clinical procedures and improve time efficiency, okay, then this will be a very handy approach to use. And when you want to simplify communication between the dentist and the dental technicians, I mean, some of you may have encountered this forth and back thing between dentists and the technicians. They take the impression, you send it to the lab reject it and say that's not good enough, and then they return it back to you. You need to bring the patient back, and there's this forth and back. Sometimes, in fact, one of my students did tell me that they had a situation where the dentist refused to retake the impression and said the impression was good, and the lab technician refused to use the impression and said the impression was not good enough for them to use it. So it creates all of those problems. But once you are doing this digital impression taking, it just eliminates all of those forth and back that you would find in your own clinic. Faster turnaround time in prosthetic restoration and orthodontic treatment. When they are required, then digital impression taking becomes your go-to place. And digital impressions for fabricating prosthetic restorations, including those crowns and bridges that we said in the other setting. But when you want to do integration between your CAD/CAM and your CAD/CAM system, then you need that digital impression. So let's say your clinic is expanding and you have just purchased the computer-aided design and the computer-aided manufacturing systems for your dental practice. You need an intraoral scanning. If not, it's not going to work. There's no other way you can actually integrate your technologies together without using that intraoral scanning device. So that's why we think it's an important technology for you to incorporate into your system. There are some key features of intraoral scanning. So you can have high-speed scanning. Now, I don't know how long it takes you on average to take impression manually and do the casting and until you get the model that you are looking for. But you can actually, when you master the act of taking digital impression, you can do it in as low as 1 minute. Okay, you can take a full impression of the mouth in as low as 1 minute. So it gives you that high speed scan in real-time visualization. So you don't need your patient to go home and then you call the person back for you to take another impression because the one you took before is not good. You have a real-time visualization. Both the patient, if you look at the screen here, as this person is taking this impression, the patient is seeing, you can see in real time, everybody is seeing it. If it is good, it is good. If it is wrong, we'll see it there, that there's a problem with the scan and we can look for a way to fix it there and then. color rendering to distinguish tissues and materials, and also if you want to do some powder-free scanning. So instead of using those alginates and all of that in the mouth of a patient, you can do it without any of those powders. So these are some of the important features of intraoral scanners. But there are also some different models and mix of intraoral scanners. So it's important to say that because technology is booming, if you go to the market, I'm not here to tell you that one product is better than the other. This is not a product review. We're just trying to make you aware that there is more than one. Their design might be different, but they will still have the same components. So when we look at the components of intraoral scanners, they are the same. It doesn't matter where they are located on the scan. Okay, so the designs might be different, but because they are produced by different companies, but the function, the principles of operation will still be the same. The maintenance will still be the same. Okay. So there are some basic components of the scanner that you would want to know. So if you look at this picture here, so this is a picture of an intraoral scanner, and what you see here is what we call the handheld wand. Okay, so the handheld wand is one component. You can see the buttons for operation. Yeah, the button that you use to operate or control the thing. Then you see the camera tip. There's a camera tip here. But also, you don't see this one, but is there. Without it, the scanner cannot function. Is the software interface. So it's the software interface that you have to install on the system that actually makes the scanner to work. If not, this is just an ordinary piece. Okay, it's just an ordinary piece. If you look at it, it looks like an ultrasonic scaler or anything. So without that software interface, the scanner will not be useful. So these are the basic components of intraoral scanners. And like I've said, it doesn't matter which company that made it. It doesn't matter the shape of it, the color, or whatever it is. They will all have the same components. And that can also be true for the principles of intraoral scanning. So one of the principles is dry field scanning. You have to make sure that you are controlling moisture in the mouth, because moisture in the mouth can actually distort the image that you are trying to produce. So you have to make sure that that is there. You need to also demonstrate consistent movement. So your movement, your speed, your accuracy have to be consistent as you are moving from one side of the either the upper jaw or the lower jaw to the other side. If you're going from the right to the left, or from the left to the right, if you're going lingually or buccally or palatally, you have to make sure you are maintaining consistent movement, and the principle will be the same for all of that. Overlap, stable angulation. So you need to make sure that your angulation is stable, and also slow, steady scanning is also another principle that you need to be aware of. So please try to be aware of these major principles of intraoral scanning, regardless of what kind of products that you are using. Again, with every other thing that you might want to think about, there are advantages and disadvantages. So with intraoral scanning, sadly, there are some few disadvantages, but there are also a lot of advantages. So we said that some of the advantages of having this in your clinic or using it include enhanced accuracy and consistency. Okay, so if you want to be an accurate professional and be consistent in that level of accuracy, you perhaps need an intraoral scanner, which will help you to maintain that level of practice. But if you are using, for some patients, you're using intraoral scanners, and another time you're not using intraoral scanner, then it might be such that your work will not be consistent. So you have good success today, and tomorrow you are struggling again, and again you go back to having some success and some failures in your clinic. So consistency when it's required, that's one advantage. Improved patient comfort is an advantage. Digital files are very essential to store. Now, some of you said, someone did mention that you actually have problem with storage of the things that you use to take impression and all of that. So you have those things, you are taking your originate and all of that. Even the impressions that you've taken, I don't know how long where you file them. Maybe you have a physical cupboard where you put all the impression. I don't know whether you are going to label it with the names of the patient, whether you are going to reuse them or you are going to throw them away. With intraoral scanners, you have a file digitally for all of your patients, and you can just store that so on the file, so you can access it with your mobile phone, you can access it with your laptop. You don't need any physical space to start storing originate, to start storing impression trays, and start storing even impressions that you've already created. So that's one advantage, and enable same-day dentistry. So again, when you want to, you can actually have someone in your clinic today. By the time they enter, from the time they enter and the time they leave your clinic, they have their restoration on their way out. Okay, so with a digital impression taking, be sure of same-day dentistry, which doesn't actually happen with manual impression taking. So these are some of the advantages. There are other advantages that you can think of if we had time to look into those, but there are a few limitations with intraoral scanning. So yeah, especially when you start using intraoral scanning, or when you start either incorporating it or as you use it, you might begin to have some issues with gingival margins. Sometimes it's difficult. It might be difficult based on your level of skills and techniques to capture accurately the subgingival margins. You might require often calibration to make sure that your scanner is giving you what it should be giving you, so it's not giving you missed information. But there is this element of initial cost of actually integrating it into your system. Like most of you now, I don't know how many of you are running your own practice, how many of you actually have the funds right now to switch to digital impression taking, to get intraoral scanners, maybe one or two into your clinic. So there is quite a lot of investment that go into that. And when you acquire it, that is one cost. There's another cost that is associated with training your staff, because you don't need just one person to know how to use it. You want all your staff members, or as many of them as have access to taking impression and all of that, should at least know how to do the digital impressions. So that learning curve and the cost of training is a disadvantage. There are other disadvantages that you might want to think about, which, for instance, one, if you work in a traditional dental practice where you have traditional old practitioners, those fathers and mothers that have been dentists since Christ was born, right? And they just know what they know. They don't want any improvement. They don't want this technology. They just want to do the things the traditional way. So if you work in such a place, again, one disadvantage is that you may not be able to convince them to invest in things like this. So if I ask you now, you have other disadvantages that you would want to talk about. But because of time, the first thing we are going to do now is to look at the process of intraoral scanning, and this demonstration will be muted. Okay, so you're just going to watch visually. I want you to pay attention so this will be to enhance your visual learning. We pay attention, look at the patterns, try to recognize the patterns, and also observe how the person who is doing the scanning, observe how he's making his movements and how he's capturing the images, and then we can discuss this a bit later. Okay, so this will be without any volumes. Okay, so is there anything you noticed with this scanning from the beginning to the end of it? What are the things that you noticed?
The process of scanning, if the scanner did not pick part of the tooth or part of the material they need to pick, are you going to start over again, or you just continue to run and it will pick? Because I didn't understand that aspect. That is when running the camera on it and you dodge some parts, how did you come back to get that part? Thank you.
Okay, so that's a question. That's not an answer to my question, but we are going to note your question. We will answer your question a bit later. Okay, so what I want you to do, I'm going to play the video again. I want you to pay attention to what the man is doing. Pay attention to the sequence. Okay, how did he do first one? What did he do next? What did he do after? And just pay attention, because there is no audio. It's just the attention that I want. Okay, let's see if you are going to pick out some key important information from what the man is doing. Okay, so if you noticed, you will see that I paused the video a few times to highlight certain important things. So there are a few things that I expect you to have noticed from this video. First of all, is the time that it took to do the entire scan. Okay, you can see the time here. Total scan time is less than 1 minute. All right. Now you see the sequence. Did you notice when he was changing the tip, the camera tip?
The camera.
Based on where he was going. So if he wanted to do the lower one, and when he wanted to do the upper one, you noticed when he was doing that, right? Did you also notice how he registered the bite? Did you notice when he was registering the bite, the third scan that he did?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Did you notice that he didn't have to go all the way around his mouth to register the bite?
Yeah. It's just on one quadrant. So I think he occluded his teeth and then took put the camera on the molar part, I think, from back the last posterior, and then he didn't, I think he got to the anterior by the time he stopped and the bite registered.
Yeah, okay. So what we are going to do now, thank you for observing those. So this time around, I'll need you to pay attention and also listen to the video. So I want you to observe the setup of the patient, okay, and also observe how the registration happens, how the bite is registered, and see if you're going to observe any common errors from the video that you're going to see. Okay, that's not the video that I want you to watch. Sorry, I've done that. So let's watch this one. Watch that one too. So now what we are going to do is to watch with explanation. Okay, so the first one we did is you watched the demonstration, but there was no volume, there was no explanation. So this is adapted George and Doto model. Can you hear what they are saying? No? Okay.
No, we can.
Okay. You should be able to hear it now. Can you?
No, not yet.
For us to take an intraoral digital scan of your teeth. So what this is
Yes, you
a
can.
series of pictures which are stitched together to provide a
I'm here.
3D record of your upper and lower teeth. It's very safe, it's absolutely painless, and it shouldn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes. We're just going to give your teeth a quick clean, and then we can make a start. An intraoral digital scanner is a handheld device which captures a sequence of photographic images of the mouth digitally, and these are stitched together to provide us with a record of the teeth, the gums, and the intraoral structures. So if you could open for me, please. These are an alternative to conventional impressions, which are often made of silicone and can be a bit messy. This is an entirely safe procedure. There's no radiation involved. It's non-invasive. Only the tip actually is inserted into the mouth. You will feel the head of the scanner, which is recording the photographs, moving over the teeth, but it's entirely pain-free. Okay, Sophie, so now we're going to take a scan of the upper jaw. The images that it records are very precise. This accuracy allows us to have the precision that's required to produce well-fitting dental prostheses. Now we just want to record how your teeth bite together. So if you could just bite together for me, please.
Your dentist may use an intraoral scanner for various purposes, including designing dental restorations like crowns, bridges, or veneers, planning orthodontic treatments such as braces or clear aligners, creating digital models for dental implants, monitoring oral health over time with precise digital records.
So Sophie, this is a scan of your lower teeth. It's very, very clean. It's a very helpful tool for patient communication, and this allows patients to have an understanding of what we're planning to do to help them. We've now also got the upper teeth, and when we bring them together, we can check the bite. We can see the contacts across all of the teeth, and we can see how hard you're biting in different places. This technology allows us to provide the best treatment plans for our patients. Also, because we have digital data instead of physical casts, they're very easy to store, and so we don't need physical storage space. And we can transmit this data instantly to dental technicians. On top of this, it's a very green treatment modality in that there's no physical waste produced from the scanner.
In summary, here are the benefits of intraoral scans. They are comfortable and pain-free, with no need for messy impressions or holding trays in your mouth. The scanning process is quick, usually lasting between 5 and 10 minutes. Digital impressions are extremely accurate. The 3D images can be shared instantly with laboratories, reducing waiting times for treatments. They can be used as a visual tool to explain treatments. And digital scans mean less clinical waste.
Digital scans may not be suitable for all patients, and in certain forms of treatment we may need to record conventional impressions, but digital scanning would be our preferred option where possible.
We hope this video has helped you understand the benefits and process of intraoral scanning at UCLH.
Okay, so you see, with this second video that has explanation attached to it, you see that it points out most of the things that we've been saying about the uses and the importance of intraoral scanning, patient communication, real-time visualization. You saw that. You saw the patient setup. Okay, so in the patient setup, you saw that the first thing they did was to maintain that dry field to make sure that the oral cavity is dry enough before they can perform the scan. Okay, and you can see that they also had that communication with the patient even while they were performing the scan, letting the patient know when they are doing the lower jaw and the upper jaw, and also using that scan to actually explain the treatment plan. If you looked very closely, you may have found that even where you have the patient had calculus and some deposits in the mouth, those were also very clearly visible in the thing. So for treatment planning, intraoral scanners can be very effective in doing that. So is this something that you might be able to explain just verbally if you were given an opportunity to explain to someone the sequence of doing an intraoral scan? Even if it's not in details,
Yes,
like
sir. Yes, sir. With the short lecture now and through the visual display, please, I personally can explain the sequence of how it's been done.
Okay, so there are other things I want you to pay attention to. Pay attention to errors as well. Okay, pay attention to errors. When there's someone that asked a question about when an error happens, that's why I said we will answer that question about error very shortly. So I need you to pay attention to error, pay attention to how that error can be fixed and all of that. So we'll get a bit more detailed explanation of how to do the step-by-step explanation of how to do the scan.
Welcome to the full arch scanning powered by iTero Element intraoral scanner. To complete the scan, you should scan the lower and upper arch and the bite. You can also invert the order, starting from the upper arch. Please note that even in cases where you need additional aligners in one arch, we highly recommend scanning both arches to provide as much information as possible for fabrication of the new aligners. Remember that the teeth are in contact and both arches are moving as a product of the Invisalign clear alignment therapy. It is also important to scan both arches.
So the person that asked that question, did you notice when they returned back to capture areas that were missed?
Yes, I noticed it.
Yeah.
To enable the user to keep track of changes using the iTero time-lapse technology. Before starting the scan, confirm that the teeth are free of excess saliva. Use your fingers to retract the cheek and place the wand flat on the occlusal surface of the teeth.
So initially, you have to make sure, just like in the other video, make sure that there is no saliva that will block your view. Because if you take a scan through the saliva, it will distort the image that you are trying to capture. So you have to make sure you're working on a dry field.
This patient has their third molar present. That tooth is the starting point.
So you notice here, there are patients that will have their very third molar or their teeth intact, but there are some other patients that will not have that third molar present. So in this case, this patient has the third molar present.
Once the location of the starting point is confirmed in the viewfinder on the distal molar, turn on the wand and scan the occlusal surface of the lower arch in a single continuous motion. When you reach the bicuspid, continue by swiping across the anterior, tilting slightly to the lingual at the contralateral bicuspid, and then proceed by moving the tip straight back to the contralateral terminal molar. This will allow capture of continuous segments of anatomy. Repeat the step on the contralateral side. When scanning the lingual area, bring the cable end of the wand out to the side and maintain the wand tip at a vertical 45-degree angle to the lingual surface. Both sides of the sleeve should touch the teeth. Retract the cheek as you move anteriorly and make sure your sleeve is steadily touching the teeth. Continue scanning by rolling to the lingual and capturing the lingual anatomy of the entire arch. Holding the wand tip against the tooth will help to retract the tongue. Twist to capture the interproximal anatomy while you scan. When you have completed the lingual, rotate to the buccal and use a rocking motion as you move toward the anterior to capture the interproximal anatomy of the buccal. Place the sleeve at a 45-degree angle to ensure that you capture some of the occlusal as you scan the buccal.
So, some of the difficult areas. So what it's doing here is highlighting some of the difficult areas to capture, especially when you have not really advanced in the skills of intraoral scanning. So sometimes you have problems, like I said, with the gingival margins. You may not be able to capture that properly. Sometimes you might miss the interproximal spaces. Okay, so these angles that the video is showing you is how you need to position your scanner in order to get those difficult places to avoid missing data.
The scanner sleeve is your retraction device when scanning the buccal area. When you cross the midline, move the wand tip to the opposite terminal tooth. Switch hands to hold the wand when scanning the anterior teeth and keep the wand in a horizontal position. Moving from posterior to anterior on the buccal reduces interference from the cheek and provides a smoother scanning experience for you and the patient. Next, capture solid anterior incisal anatomy by placing the wand so that the cuspid and the lateral are centered in the viewfinder, and then roll from the lingual surface over the incisal edge to the facial. Repeat the step on the contralateral side. These images show how to position the sleeve on the incisal edge to roll and capture the anatomy. Retract the lip to leave room for the sleeve to move. There are two strategies for capturing missing anatomy. Use the scanning feedback feature, which detects the holes and provides a color. Red and monochrome.
So, by the time you complete that, again, back to that question that was asked, you see that by the time this movement is completed, there are areas of missing data, okay? You can see some areas of missing data. So once that happens, because you are visualizing this in real time, it will highlight missing data for you, and then you can be able to fix it. This is different from what would have happened if you're doing manual impression taking, because by the time you even realize that it's missing data, the patient probably would have been gone.
In purple and color mode, indicating the area that needs to be filled in. The second option is to simply proceed to that area of the missing anatomy and add scans to that spot. Now we will switch segments by tapping the directional arrow to switch to the upper arch and scan with the same protocol. We start scanning from the occlusal at the last present molar, and in this case is a wisdom tooth. Move across the posterior teeth in a U-shaped motion. When you reach the bicuspid, continue by moving across the anterior, tilting slightly to the lingual at the contralateral bicuspid, and then proceed by moving the tip straight back to the contralateral terminal molar. This will allow the capturing of continuous segments of the anatomy. Continue scanning by rolling to the palatal and capturing the palatal anatomy of the entire arch. Bring the cable end of the wand out to the side and maintain the wand tip at a vertical 45-degree angle to the lingual surface.
Another important thing to highlight here is that while this is taking so long to finish, remember that someone did it in less than 1 minute. So this is taking long because of the explanations, and this is for education purposes. Okay, so for education purposes, it looks like something that is taking so long, but in real time, you can actually do this in under 1 hour. In under 1 minute? What I'm going to do, for the sake of time, is to pause the video here, and we can continue with the other things. But you have access to the link to these videos, and you'll be able to watch the full video. And if we need to watch the rest of the video, we'll come back. I just want to proceed because I'm conscious of the time. I know that some of you are there. So what are some common errors and how to avoid them? Okay, so some of the common errors that you might find when you're doing intraoral scanning include moving so fast. Okay, when you're moving too fast, you will have a lot of missed anatomy. Remember, what the scan is doing is taking so many pictures. The scan is taking so many pictures and patching them together to be able to form the 3D image that you have. So if you move your hand so fast, you take picture of one place, you skip one place, take picture of another and skip another, and then you will not have a really good scan. So you need to make sure you are not moving so fast and that you are going with a consistent speed. Moisture, again, we've said that before and over. You need to make sure that you're working on a dry field, making sure that once the patient sits down, some of your clinics may already have, or you may have with your scanner, you may have like suction apparatus that you can use to suck out the saliva from the mouth of the patient should the patient have excess saliva in their mouth. Or you could ask the patient to spit out and then dry up that environment, maybe with your gauze and all of that, to make sure you have a very clean place to avoid moisture. Incorrect angulation, you can see from that video how that video is teaching you where and how you need to angulate your scanner in order to get the appropriate image of the anatomy that you are looking for. So once you have incorrect angulation of that intraoral scanner, then you will begin to miss important details of the cavity that of the oral cavity that you're looking for. Missing interproximal areas, which I have shown you, and losing track. This is very important. So when you go in through the sequence, okay, you don't want to lose track of where you are. So it's not something that you will be distracted when you are doing it. You need to make sure that you don't lose track of where you are. You're just taking those pictures consistently, moving in the same direction. And when you go to the end, you switch over to the other end, following the angulations that you've been shown. And then you go all the way around, maintaining the track of where you are going. So how do you actually spot errors? Some of those errors that you are asking about. So that was just the one you asked question about, but I'll show you just one example of how you can spot an error and what you can do about it. So can you look at this picture and identify the problem? Do you see any problem with this scan? Just watch closely and see if you can identify any problem with the scan. Did you notice that? So when there is problems with the scan, you can also correct it. You can see in this area, you can see that the teeth is connected to the tissue. So again, because this is digital, when you see a problem, you can actually be able to fix it. Okay, you can fix the problem with manual impressions. Once there is a problem, what do you do with the impression? You have to retake the impression, isn't it? Is there a way you can fix the anatomical problems that you find with the impression? Let's assume you are missing any details with the impression. You wouldn't be able to, you've taken the impression already, you've done the casting of the model, so there's nothing you can do about it. But with digital, you can actually go back to fix that problem. And with this will prevent that forth and back you see that goes on with the dentists or the clinicians and the people that work in the lab. When the lab will reject your impression and say this your model and say this is not good enough, okay, they send it back to you, and because you know that the patient is gone, you might insist that it is good enough, that the lab should use it like that. So here, it's either that you identify that problem and fix it, or maybe the lab can even do the fixing themselves in certain cases. So here is another issue. So you can do a more detailed inspection. So what happens here is that when you're registering the bite, because you can see from the videos that you've seen so far, the lower jaw and the lower jaw, you need to do as your occlusion will have to happen. Now, as you know, some patients could be a bit unstable with their occlusion, and then you could have a problem where the occlusion is not well relaxed before you register the bite, and then that can distort, because you know how the occlusion happens. So once there is a distortion in one angle, that will affect the entire thing, because it just changes alignment of the entire upper and lower jaw. So you can change the bite. So when that bite is registered, you can correct it and then change it, delete the initial one, so that the software can recognize that the bite has been refined, and now the software can now store the refined bite instead of the one that was captured when that alignment did not happen well. So don't forget that what we are doing today is just to introduce us to the concepts of digital impression taking. So this is not, well, I'm not expecting that after today you are going to become experts in digital impression taking. This is the first step and how you could get prepared for a hands-on training. There's another video here which I would like you to watch in your own time. So this is how some common problems and how to fix them that you could watch, but we don't have time to go into that. So do you want us to observe a short break? I know we've been here for long. Don't log off, just stretch your legs for 5-10 minutes, and then we could go into the next phase of the training. So this is where we'll go into breakout rooms and have some conversations around this, and where you can do some talking yourself. Okay, so let's observe a very short break. Okay, when you come back from your own break, if you indicate that you're back, let's see if we can just continue to finish up.
I'm back. I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
So the fourth step in the teaching session would be where I would like you to describe what you've seen so far in terms of the process of digital impression taking. Okay, it's okay if you can't remember everything all at once, but let's see how much you remember. So this is more about cognitive rehearsal. Let's see how much you can remember from these previous steps that we have gone into. But what you are going to do instead is I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. So how many people do we have on the call? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'll put you in 2 rooms, okay, just to save time. And then in your room, you will speak to each other in the room to see what you remember from the process of digital impression taking. Start from the whole thing, like when your patient come in, how do you assess the patient, how do you position the patient, and what do you do step by step. Okay, so I'll put you in breakout rooms now, and then we could do that cognitive rehearsal. So in your group discussion, when you go into the breakout rooms, I would like you to identify the parts of the scanner. Okay, so if I give you a scanner now, will you be able to say this is what this one is called, this is what it is used for, and all of that? Can you try to describe the scanning sequence, and also discuss indication for low resource use? When do you think that in a place like where you work, when do you think this can be appropriate for you to actually use, and see if you will be able to predict any errors in a scan? Okay, I can see that there is still someone here. Ezima, you're supposed to be in a breakout room now. Hello.
Sure.
Okay, I can see that there are some people that are stuck here. Ezima, I don't know, for some reason I can't add you to the room. You and, can you guys hear me? Adedoyin and Ezima, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, you're supposed to be in a room. Are you aware?
Yeah, you said you're going to create a breakout session or rooms.
Okay. Yeah, I did create breakout rooms actually. Okay, let me try this again. I have to bring everybody out too.
I agree.
You said what?
Are we back to the room?
Just 1 second, because there are some people that got stuck here.
Is that so? I didn't know.
Yeah, okay. For some reason, I can't assign you to any room, unfortunately. I don't know, there's perhaps something with your phone. Okay, so it's not giving me the option to add you to any room. So what I'm going to do is, while these people go back to finish their conversation, I would ask you and Ezima to be here and form one group here. Okay? Ezima, can you hear us?
Okay.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, do you guys understand what we are doing
you.
now? Yeah, do you understand what we are doing, two of you? So what I want now is for the two of you to talk to each other. You're going to be our group number 3, okay? Because I can't put you in a room for some reason. So what I want to...
I'm hearing you.
Yes, so, but it appears you're not hearing me clearly. Adedoyin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So you can see on the screen, I have questions here. The discussions, they are not questions, they are discussion points that I want you to discuss with Ezima, okay? Because other people will come out and you have to communicate with other people to tell them what you discussed. Can you identify the scanner parts? So can you identify the scanner, the wands, the software interface, the controls, the camera tips, and all of that? Can you describe the scanner sequence? Can you discuss with Ezima when you think that intraoral scanning can be useful in your area, in the place you work, and can you predict some common errors? Okay. So please have that conversation, because I'm going to go to another room now to see what they're doing there. So you can start talking to each other now.
Okay, so I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
He's already up.
I said we should discuss about the scanner parts and the sequences. So for me, I think from everything I've learned, I think the scanner has a sensor, has the software part, has the handpiece, right? And for the sequence, I think with the video, I've seen that most times they scan the lower part, the lower jaw, then the upper, which they can also do the upper first, then the bite registration. And indications for using a scanner in a low resource setting, probably when I think for places where dental labs are not available, if they can get a dental scanner, then it probably will work. Yeah, but I think the cost is another thing for a low resource setting. Yeah, so I don't know if you have anything to share. I think that's majorly the things I want to share.
The one you said, you made mention about where the dental lab is not available. That's wrong. Because for me, I've used the scanner. I started using it since 2018. So it's not something that is a substitute is actually the best where you have it available, because with it is less economic. You don't need to do the physical impression with the scanner.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's a substitute. I think you didn't get me. The question was an indication for using a dental scanner in a low resource
Yes,
settings.
in
I
what?
said in a low resource settings. I didn't say it's like, I was only trying to say that in a low resource settings where probably a dental, like the traditional dental lab is maybe not in existence or something like that, they can, yes, they can use a dental scanner. I've used it before, right? They use it where I worked before. So that was what I was trying to say. I was not trying to say that probably, I was not trying to compare and contrast. I was also trying to identify the indication. The question was indication for using a dental scanner in a low resource setting.
Okay. Actually, what it does is that is faster, because unlike the physical impression that you need to convey the impression from one place to the other, and even in the presence of conveying the impression, or the cast, there may be distortion on the model or on the impression. Let's say, for example, rubber impression, that most times you don't need to cast it, you just convey it. For example, like for implant cases and the rest of them. So when you have such, there may be distortion, but with the intraoral scanner, you just convey it straight to the um to the lab. And the advantage it has for the low income is that, unlike the physical impression, that if you do a particular one and it's not good, you have to keep on repeating, more or less wasting material. But for the scanner, you're repeating, repetition is just with the camera. You are just in fact, it will show you where there is a default, and all you just go is to go to that, need to do is just to go to the place, and then you correct whatever. In fact, as you're even taking the intraoral examination, it's guiding you. When there's an error, it will just show you that, yes, there's an error. It will stop on its, as for the one that I've used. That's how it does. It will stop on its own to show you that, yes, there's an error, for you to go back and continue, and it will show you that, yes, you are getting it right. So once there is an error, it will show you. Unlike the physical impression that you need to repeat, and you end up wasting material. That's the aspect I am seeing concerning poor income. Not necessarily where there is no lab. The one of known that where there is no lab doesn't have to do with intraoral. Instead, you're sending it, as you are taking it, you send it immediately via mail. The lab receives it immediately. And one other thing it does is that, unlike the normal physical impression that you
Hello,
take,
ma.
and there might be
Hello, ma.
an
Hello,
error,
ma.
and you wouldn't know, the patient will go
Can
back
you hear
home,
me?
and you wouldn't know that there is an
Can
error. You
you
will
hear
have to
me?
come. Yes, my dear. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Sorry. I understand what you're trying to say. I think you're comparing advantages and disadvantages of, you're trying to compare both. I wasn't comparing both. Indications, I don't know. Indications means, I don't know how to break it down. The question is discuss indications in low
That's
resource
the
settings.
indication
Now
that I'm talking
the reason
about.
why I said that, the reason why I said that low resource settings where probably you have, because when I worked with a dental scanner, it comes with a milling machine, and where I worked with it, we have the milling machine right there in the clinic. So you just send it to you take the system, we take our computer aided design down to where the milling machine is, and if you want to select the cornea or anything, that's the way it kind of work, right? So that was why I was talking about the indication. I wasn't comparing and contrasting. That was not what I was saying. I don't know if you got what I was trying to say.
Okay, so thank you all of you for that very engaging conversation. I've been to all the 3 rooms and can tell you that I'm quite impressed with the conversation that going on in those individual rooms where you are. And you have all, talked extensively around identification of the scanner parts and description of the sequence of, capturing the, dental anatomy for your digital scans. And also you've had conversations around the indication for low resource use, which some of you have gone beyond indication and started looking at advantages and disadvantages, which are very interesting things to have listened to. So thank you for that. What about prediction of common error? I didn't quite hear most of you engaging so much on that. So what I would like to do is to ask those of you in room 1. In room 1, we had Anthony, Gospel, and John. Do you want to tell us any of the scanner parts that you can remember or you can be able to identify?
Okay, sir. Like the scanner parts, the bulk of the scanner is called the handheld one, which is carrying the control button where your thumb can, either the thumb or the first finger can go around to control front and back. Then we have the camera tip that usually visualize the teeth or the tissue in the mouth. Like I said earlier, if you are finished taking the upper part, you disconnect and turn to get the lower part instead of turning the full hand of the intraoral camera. Then the last one is the software interface where you connect to the laptop or to the screen or to the monitor, where you can adjust later. So that is a part of the intraoral camera. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And do we all agree from the other rooms, or do we want to add something to that? Room 2 and room 3.
So I would like, I'm in group 1. Can I add, sir?
Please.
In the prediction of the common errors, we can have incomplete data. That is, there can be a missing area due to limited access or techniques when we are not so much skillful on that, or probably it can be a motion artifact when patient movement causes distortions or scans doesn't align properly. So those are the prediction we discuss about. So.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for that. You've actually jumped ahead of the sequence to get to the prediction, because I was still talking about the scanner parts. But thank you for pushing us because of time. The sequence, can group 2, did you get to, I know you got to that point. Can you tell us about the sequence? Yes, we can hear you.
Talking about first of all, we start with preparation. That is, we ensure that there's no excess saliva in the patient's mouth. Then we retract some of the sulfur and pumps. And then we go about by starting with the occlusal part of the lower arch, and through the arch, we also switch to the upper part, to the maxillary part, where we cover the palatal surface while on that. And the later part to the register, the last part of the register is the bike. That's scanning both parts, then you ensure that the bike is just up for two.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, you followed the sequence very well. So you started with the patient, positioning, making sure that the patient is comfortable, and making sure that you're working on a dry field, making sure that there is no excess saliva in the area in the oral cavity that you want to scan. You can do that with maybe using the suction apparatus to get the salivas out, or maybe just asking the patient to spit out as much as possible. And you can dry up the place to make sure that you don't have that distortion there. And room number 3, can you talk to us about indications for use in low resource settings? I know we've had that conversation previously. Can you tell us for the benefit of others? Room number 3, we had Ezima and was it Adedo, someone? And by the way, anybody else can actually come in, maybe from room 1 or room 2. Indication for low resource use. Think about your own clinic.
When you talk about indications in low resource field, I want to get the question clearly so that we'll be sure what we're saying. Do you mean that in a low income setting, what are the indications for a need for just intraoral scanner? I'm just trying to get the question.
Yes, that's what we mean. So think about, we assume that you predominantly are working in a low resource setting, but that is not to say that all of your clinics are poor. Okay, I know that
Yes,
some of you really have a lot of money in your clinic, but think about the country, working in low income country, in your low resource setting. Think about your setting, think about your patient pool.
If I want to talk generally, not being specific to a particular clinic, if I'm going to talk about general practice in a low resource area, I would say that the fact that it's even a low resource area is a more indication for the use of intraoral scanner, because in the long run, it saves cost. It saves cost of recurrent expenses for the purchase of impression materials, and also the fact that it generates a lot of waste. So sometimes you buy materials and then you keep repeating and then you generate waste. And also the fact that it even reduces waste generation in the environment, being that most clinics have to pay for every time they have to dispose their waste. They have to make payment for that, and all those environmental concerns. So for me, I would say that an oral scanner is mostly needed in a low resource area or a low financial or low budget area, because it actually cuts out extra expensive or recurrent expenses for them, so they could focus on other things that really require their attention when it comes to finance. Because if there is a situation where budget can be reduced, recurrent budget can be reduced, then I think that is what every area or practicing communities where you're practicing that you don't have much resource. I think that's what they would need. Equipment that could actually reduce recurrent budget. That's how I see it for me.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And I like the fact that you used a holistic approach to answer the question, not being specific to your. Yes, please, Ezima.
And to add to what she said, all she said is true. And to add to what she said, also for the low income, unlike when you take impressions in the process of moving the impression or the cast from one place to the other, there may be distortion or anything wrong with the impression. But with the intraoral scanner, you are transferring the information straight to the lab. There's no middleman in between. And more so, unlike the normal impression that you may take impression and you feel is okay, but when the impression gets to the lab may notice a particular place that needs to be repeated, something of that nature. But with intraoral, as you are taking the impression and there is an error in it, the machine indicates to you that there is an error, especially with the bite. When you have a distortion with the bite, there are people who find it difficult to, maybe as a result of the alignment of their teeth and the rest of them. As you're taking the bite registration, it indicates to you to tell you that, oh, yes, the bite registration is not good and stuff like that. Even when such cannot be managed, of course, that gives you another room to take another, maybe the physical bite registration to augment with the one you have on the camera. So it goes a long way to save time for you and for the patient at the same time. Because imagine, let's say, for example, you are taking impression in Nigeria and you are sending it down to the UK and you have to DHL it. That's one of the easiest way to pass such. But with the intraoral scanner, as you are taking it, you send it via email. The second person receives it immediately, just in a twinkle of some seconds or minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ezima. I like how you have approached this, because one of the things you are bringing in is the concept of collaborative working here, where in low resource setting, it gives a low resource setting an opportunity to actually work more effectively and more efficiently with other practices without the hassle and puzzle of having to physically move items from one place to the other. That means in a low resource setting, as you have said, I'm just trying to rephrase the things you've said. In a low resource setting, you can actually collaborate with different clinics instead of all the clinics having the same thing. Let's say one clinic has a patient that you need intraoral scanner. You can send that patient to this clinic B, where they have the scanner. They do the scan and send back to you, but you need the other things to be able to work with. Yes, thank you all for that contribution. Does anyone want to say any other thing about any of the questions we are discussing? Yes, go on.
I want to add just some light, discuss my own experience with moving a cast that resulted in a mess. Okay, so we had this patient and the patient needed I said it was a zirconia crown, and we took impression and sent it to the lab. The lab was outside the state where the clinic is resident. It was supposed to arrive take 2 days, but eventually the lab didn't get the job at all. And this patient has a deadline to meet. She was traveling in about 2 weeks from the day we took the impression, and we're supposed to have a job fitted in about a week. So she still had like 1 week. At the end of the day, we thought the lab has received it. The lab called us after 1 week when we were already expecting the job, that they hadn't received our cast. So we had to call the patient back again. At this time, we were not sure we're going to meet the deadline. And all of this would have just been, prevented if there was an intraoral scanner to just take the impression and send to the lab. So that's just to add more light to how this can actually save time in a low income area, or based on my own personal experience.
Yeah, thank you, guys, for sharing that experience. And that is really very brilliant, because I remember what I heard you say in your own breakout room when you were having this same conversation. You said that even though it's a huge investment to make in the first instance, but it saves you because this is a low resource setting, it saves you time and money on the long run. Think about the cost of that experience that you had, having to track that patient, get that patient back. Imagine if that patient had traveled, or it's not available, and then all the forth and back that you had to go in order to arrive at I don't know what the outcome was before you achieved that outcome. All of that could have been avoided with intraoral scanner. Thank you so much all for your contributions. I'm just a little bit conscious of time. So what we are looking to do next, this is going to be a little bit tricky, is so we've done some cognitive rehearsal where you've talked to me about everything you've learned, and I can tell that you, at this introductory stage, you can actually verbalize the process of conducting intraoral scanning. Unfortunately, at this step now, we are supposed to give you an opportunity to now practice exactly what you have described that you want to do, in terms of making that clinical judgment as to when should I use intraoral scanner for this patient, or for a different patient, or not at all. Should we invest or should we not invest in this? And also how to make that initial scanning after you've watched and you can describe what has happened. But let's see how we can get through this. So let's see how you can cognitively apply the knowledge that you've got from today's session. So I need you to imagine yourself doing intraoral scanning. Imagine yourself receiving patients into your clinic and making that clinical decision as to whether or not it is appropriate to use intraoral scanners. I need you to visualize that potential errors that could happen with you capturing those images and what you do with those images. So just so you can be able to cognitively perform that practice of digital impression taking. And this will help you. When you can visualize yourself doing this, you can practice it in your mind, and you've been able to express it to us. You've been able to have that conversation with your peers. This can help to prepare you for any hands-on practice that will be coming later. Okay, so I'm going to show you one of the videos that you've seen previously. I need you to try to now identify missing data from the video. Okay, see if there are areas where you can see some high definition direct capture images. Just see if you can describe what's going on, what's wrong with this image, and what's right about it. Try to identify any poor scanning. So think about the videos you've watched previously. Is there anything you've seen that represents an image of a poorly performed scan? Okay, and see if any of the scans that you've seen or you are going to see again is going to be accepted. So assuming you are the one that's done the scan, do you think others will accept it? Or if someone did that scan and send it to you, do you think you will accept that as a well-finished scan? So let's see if this is going to work as well as I thought through it. So so what I need you to pay attention now is you try to identify exactly. I believe you can. Yeah, I'm still sharing my screen. Yes. So try to identify exactly what's the problem with the image, and see if this problem, if this happened in your setting, whether this will be easily identified and what you can do about it, or if someone did this scan for you, will you accept it? What would be your recommendation? It's about that clinical judgment. So can you identify what the problem is here? Can you see what I'm showing you?
The writing is covering the picture.
A little bit.
So I can't really see the picture. I'm just seeing the tissue in where. So
yeah, I'm trying to catch the image when they. Yeah. So you can see here that the image of the. Yes, please go on, Anthony.
The image is almost overlapping on the tooth, and there is a foreign image and the interproximal spaces which will need to be removed.
Okay. Anyone else? So you say there is problem with interproximal spaces. Is this a problem, or is this what is inside the person's mouth? Is this calculus, or is it a problem with the scan? Looking at the
I think it's a part of the one on the, like, it's part of stain on the patient's mouth naturally, but the one where there is between the middle there, I think there is overlapping of image caused by the scanner.
Okay. Anyone else? Can anyone else tell us what's going on here? So this is the problem. You can see the problem here. So this image is a bit clearer without that overlap. Yeah. So without the overlap, you can see this capture more clearer. Okay, so because of time, I'm quite conscious of the fact that we've spent, I think we're almost, we've gone beyond the time that we planned for the session. So this exercise, this very last exercise, is designed to put you in that mood where you're thinking about yourself performing the act of intraoral scanning. Like I said, this is an online session. We can't possibly have you performing intraoral scanning online. There might be technologies that we could use, but we don't have all of those now. So, but for this fifth stage of this method of teaching, what the idea of it is to put you in that mood where you are cognitively performing. Okay, in that stage where you're cognitively performing the act of taking those digital impressions, and think about, visualize yourself doing that work, visualize yourself having that patient and capturing all the images and making sure that those images are all in order. Okay. So what we are going to do now is, just because we are done with the almost everything we are doing. So let's look at a bit of feedback with what we've done now. So with this method of introducing you to the concept of digital impression taking, what do you think are the positives about what we've done today? What do you think are the positives about what we've done today? Anyone?
You mean the positives of of the exercise of this class we just had?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stimulating us to start thinking digital and start embracing other advanced technological options that are coming up, not just to get comfortable with what is available and try to explore better options, because that will give us better results and also save our time, save our energy, and in the long run, it will make our practice better. So that's the positives for me, is stimulating my brain to really see that, oh, there's something better out there. So why stick with the old? Why stick with the traditional way when you can actually get the best technology available? I feel like as the trend is moving, we should move with it. If not, we'll get obsolete. To get to a point where I think most people like to see things done easily. So if you're not following the trend to take advantage of this era of technology, you end up being very obsolete in practice. And for intraoral scanner, that's a good way to evolve and embrace the new trend. So for me, this program is an eye-opener and is a stimulator to something that has always been at the back of my mind. But attending this now actually stimulates better and gives me an idea of what the machine looks like even before I can approach it physically. So now I can tell you that, okay, I know what this machine, I know I use an intraoral camera, but I have never used an intraoral scanner. So I'm beginning to have the idea of what it looks like, in that I think it's looking a bit advanced. It's an advanced kind of intraoral camera, but this one scans and something that can be transmitted. So yes, this is a positive one. I hope courses like this can come up so that we can keep exploring better options out there. Thank you, Dr. Promise. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ma, for sharing that. Does anyone want to add to that? Is there anything you think, any other thing you think we could take out from what we've done today as a positive? And Gospel, you're quite right. So generally, this session is to stimulate us to start thinking digital and to soften the ground for us. Imagine if we were all thrown into a clinic where it's all intraoral scanners, and it's okay, begin to use intraoral scanners. You might feel a lot of a bit unsure what to do and how to approach it, and feel a little bit inadequate. But with this very session now, it opens our eyes to what is out there and gives us that introductory, overview of incorporation of intraoral digital scans into our practices. Okay. What about any uncertainties? Is there anything, I don't want to say negative to it, but is there anything that
I wanted to ask, are there contraindications for intraoral scanner? For example, we know that there are contraindications for using ultrasonic scaler. Are there contraindications where in a situation like this, probably systemic or health-related situation where intraoral scanner cannot be used? That's just what I want to know.
So health-wise, like if you can remember from I think the second or the third video that we watched, health-wise, this is not invasive, so it's not causing you any harm. It's not using like S-radiations, yeah. So it's not giving you any. It's not like it's using radiation. It's just a camera that is capturing this image. So this is not like when you are doing what do you call it, X-ray. Okay, it's not like doing X-ray where you are loading the patient with radiation. There could be contraindications. There are patients with limited opening. Do you understand? There are patients. Let's say a patient have a temporomandibular joint disorder that doesn't allow that patient to open their mouth fully, and you can't get that scanner into the mouth of that patient. So that could be a problem. I think it's mainly about using your clinical decisions to know whether this will require intraoral scanning or not, but there isn't anything medical that I am aware of because it's non-invasive at all. Except you want to think about except you want to think about infection control and all of that. Again, because it is non-invasive, it's not like scaling and polishing, it's not ultrasonic scaler. You're really not doing anything with the patient. So you're not scaling out anything and of that nature. Do you understand?
Well, I think there is still saliva contact, so I don't know if just like the intraoral camera that comes with a special covering per patient, I don't know if the scanner also have something like that.
If you watched with the videos, you see some people put a transparent film over it so that you could change that. But I've put a link to maintenance of intraoral scanner. There are quite a lot of things that we can't cover in this session. So I put a link to certain things that I would, like you to read up. There's quite a lot of reading that I want you to do, post-session reading that I wanted to do to be able to catch up with this, including the mechanisms of action, because everything we've done is just purely introductory. Okay.
Thank you. I hope classes like this will come up more regular.
Yes, that's the aim. I mean, if what I would suggest is those of you that are not part of MediGreat, perhaps you could put your give us permission to put your add you to our group. From time to time, we do share opportunities for sessions like this, like on the 20th. On the 20th or round about the 20th, because I have a lecture on the 20th, we are going to have a session because of the World Oral Health Day. So we do have sessions coming up every now and then. It's just that sometimes I get overwhelmed with work that I start missing some sessions, but we try to have sessions like once a month under MediGreat Dental. Okay, so I think the next thing in our feedback loop will be to agree on action plan. Okay, so now that you've had this introduction to digital impression taking, what's the next action that you want to take now moving forward? Everyone think about what's the next action that you may want to take moving forward. What will you do with this knowledge today? What will be your next action plan? Think about what it could be anything.
Okay, for me, because I'm in the private practice, it will be to take this information back to the management of the clinic where I work and let them know that there is something better and that is also cost effective. For me, it's cost effective. And let them know that they can make move towards purchasing one. Because the smooth running of the clinic for efficiency and to also save time. So for me, that's my next step, is to take this information back to the management of the clinic where I work. Yeah, and I will also advise those even in public sector probably to begin to write to the head people in charge of decision making and let them know that practice does not have to be analog all the time. There is something better. It improves the clinic and it increases also income in that there are people from other clinics that will be referring clinics to you. So that's also another way of generating income. So you have more inflow and you make more money. For me, that's the next step, actually. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, that's really a good thing to do. So with you being in a private clinic, you could go directly to your management and begin to stimulate them to start thinking about intraoral scanner integration into your practice. But when we talk about action plan, it might sound so big, like you are thinking now about, okay, what can we do about it? But for others, your action plan could be do a bit more study into this. Maybe you're not quite sure yet. That's okay. Yeah. Maybe you want to learn a bit more about this. Maybe you want to, maybe let's set a good action plan. How long will it take you to read through the further readings, the documents that I've added there that will give you a bit more information about the use of digital impression taking in your clinic? That could be an action plan for some of us. Okay, let's say between now and the next 2 weeks, I'll do all the post-study reading and get more information on this. Perhaps another action plan could be, maybe should we plan another session where we could take our learnings a bit further into looking at other things that we need to learn. It may not be intraoral scanner alone. There are other parts of digital dentistry that we could be talking about and all of that. So that's another action plan. Okay. So yes, by all means, Gospel, speak to your management and get them thinking about it, even if all you can achieve at the moment is to get them thinking about integration of these technologies. That's good. But I would like everyone to set up an action plan to read up all of the attached documents so that you could get as much knowledge as possible. And then please let us know what you would like us to do best. So we'll move forward from there just to summarize what we've done today. So some of the key take-home messages is that intraoral scanners are very suitable in low resource settings. As we have said, there is that initial capital that we need to invest into the business. But again, you have to make both clinical judgment and financial judgment as to whether this is going to be cost effective. For instance, when we were talking about indications for use of intraoral scanners in low resource setting, think about your patient pool, for instance. Let's say you are someone that work in a clinic where you have 3-4 patients in a month, 5 patients, not doing anything beyond scaling and polishing. You're not doing any aligners. You're not doing any, extensive work that require intraoral scanning. Then it probably may not be a good investment for you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So Because you need to think about, yes, we've acquired this, but what's our patient pool with this? How many times are we going to use this? Or are we going to invest tens of millions into this and then have it somewhere in the shelf? Okay, so that is one thing that you need to think about. So always thinking about the suitability of your own practice. Be conscious of common beginner errors. Remember to always clean the patient mouth, making sure that the place is moisture free. And equipment maintenance is also very important. I've added a link for equipment maintenance, and then you prepare yourself for any opportunities for you to do any hands-on practice. Okay, so that's generally how we conclude these sessions today. The last thing that I would like you to do is I put a QR code here and a link. I'm going to share this link with you. There's a little bit of an evaluation. I think it's about 5 questions or thereabout that I would like to just, if you can honestly tell me what you think about this session, just a bit of evaluation. So I'm posting the link in the chat box there. And if you want me to send the link to you privately, I can also send the link to you privately. Okay, so if you can just give me some feedback later on about what you think, that would be very useful. But that being said, I'm very pleased that you're here. Thank you so much for coming. These are some of the further readings that I was talking about. I needed to read on how intraoral scanners work. So this article takes you step by step how they actually work, the mechanism, the principles behind it, and the mechanism of action. Ultimate Guide to Dental Scanner Maintenance. So this one tells you how to maintain the dental scanner. Spot and prevent intraoral stitching error. So this one guides you on how to maintain, prevent errors. Solving zirconia occlusal challenges. Again, this is about errors. That one is about errors. And this last article is about digital dentistry. So this will give you an introduction into digital dentistry in the 21st century. Okay. So thank you so much all for coming. I am very pleased that we were able to do this today. Okay, any last comments? I'm going to stop recording now.
Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate you creating time to